It's 7 o'clock. Welcome you all to the Middleton City Hall. I'm going to open the meeting of the Middleton Plan Commission for Tuesday, June 25th, 2019 to order. And the first item is the roll call.
Paulson?
Here.
Hubbard?
Here.
Posey?
Here.
Murray?
Here.
Hurt?
Here.
And Slavish?
Slavish. Here.
And Brower.
Yes.
All seven present.
Everybody here, so, okay, so we can't have
June
public
open
hearing.
to staff.
Yes, we can't have public hearing until, well, welcome to the new planning director and new zoning director here, and, yes, and,
Thank you.
with
And-
those comments, we're going to start on the agenda items. And do you want to say anything?
Yes,
Abby?
no.
Yes, just really quickly, I have some exciting news to share. We have two new hires in our department that will be starting on July 31st. Daphne Shu will be joining us as associate planner in our department. And special thanks to Jen and Kurt and also Mark for helping with the interview panels for that position. And then Kelly Hilliard will be joining us as the new sustainability coordinator. Kathy Olson and Mark both helped with that hiring process, so big thanks to them for that.
So when are they starting, you said?
July 31st.
Both of them?
Both of them, we wanted to align their start dates. One of them had a big family trip, and so it worked best for her to start later in July. So we decided that it was worth waiting so that we could get them all trained at the same time on all the processes and everything. And I guess one more quick thing. I wouldn't expect to see Matt Amundsen here tonight for the Erdman Park item because his new baby was born this morning.
Oh, it was?
There we go.
And her name is Irie, and Irie, which is a Jamaican name, and she's healthy and her mom's doing very well.
Good.
Oh, that's
Great.
good. That's wonderful. Mark, you have anything? Okay, all right. We're going to start with, it's still not 7:05. We're going to start with agenda item number 1. That's the minutes from 6/11/19.
Recommend approval. Second.
All right, so the motion is to approve the minutes for us from June 11th.
Could you state, it would be helpful if you as chair could state who makes the motion and who seconds. So that
Oh,
we have it on
okay,
tape. I
okay,
think
all
that'd be
right.
helpful for Robert's
So
rules.
the Leaf made the motion and Kurt Paulson seconded it, and the motion is to approve the minutes.
Thank you.
There's a new sheriff in town in the
All
minute
right,
chair.
all right, yes. I know in the minutes, does anybody have any issues? Otherwise, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion passed unanimously, so with the help of the new sheriff. All right, item number, I think number 2,
Two,
we
we
can.
can do that.
Yeah, it should be all right, so. Specific implementation plan modification for fence. L. Badui, 4439 Misty Valley Drive.
This
So,
is, yeah, the
yes.
applicant, I believe, is here, but I can summarize,
Yes.
I did the staff report. The request is for a 6-foot-tall fence along the northern and eastern boundaries of the lot. The reason this is before you is because the subdivision, the zoning for the subdivision only allows 4-foot-high fences. We have previously granted, the Plan Commission has previously granted SFP modifications for at least 2 other properties for the same purpose. So our staff recommendation is approvals of minor modification.
And this has been approved by the neighborhood association?
I believe so, but we don't regulate the neighborhood association, but I believe they have signed off on it, if I remember the materials properly.
could you,
Yes, it's been approved.
Oh,
could
You
you
have
come
to
to the
speak at the
mic, please?
microphone,
Oh, I'm sorry.
just for the
State your
record.
name and address and,
Hi there. My name is Better Bahiri. I'm the applicant's son.
Spell your first name?
Better, B-A-D-E-R. It has been approved by the homeowners association, and I think as you were going through that, I think it's in there, and it says that it's approved pending your approval today.
so there are so many different kind of fences. Which one is he putting, there, you showed several different examples, so which one is actually going up?
There,
Is that the one which is going up?
No, that's not the one.
provided what we were provided, yeah, it's on page,
You're not gonna have a 6-foot split rail, it's gonna be a privacy fence.
So which
I
one,
assumed
Yeah.
it was the Camden picket fence.
It's probably gonna be like the estate. It's one of the estate ones,
All decorative.
but it's all
Estate combo or estate with lattice.
oh, okay.
Either, any one of these I consider decorative, so I wasn't overly worried
Okay.
about it. I just, it would have been helpful to know.
Well, the difference is, these are like a wall, you know, so, yeah, for privacy, I suppose, so.
But given the traffic on Greenbrier. Exactly.
Oh, okay.
And the slope off. Move to recommend approval as a minor SAP modification.
Second.
Okay, any questions or comments now?
Just a
Yes, Mike.
just a question about that. I fully support and understand why you'd want to put a fence up there. Is there any thought about consistency across there? Because clearly after this fence goes up, I'm guessing other property owners are going to want to do something similar. And is there any merit in, you know, requiring the same type of fencing so it's uniform across there from Greenbrier? Do we care?
I
We've already
think-
approved 2.
Yep, yep. This
And are
is the
those
third
already
one.
up?
Yes.
they are.
So
Do you,
this-
do you know what color or style they're using?
Yes, it's they're wooden fence, and what we're looking for PVC, which matches the neighbors right next to us. Because
Oh,
our
because the neighbor, that big lot
Yep.
on the east, that's still in the town, right?
No, that's still, no, that's in the city.
No, this, that one,
yep. So nope.
Oh,
I'm talking about the people to our left.
to your,
I don't want
to your west.
Nope, the other one.
South.
Right there. And that fence is gonna come, so it's gonna be a 6-foot fence all along there, and then it's gonna come along, and that's an existing fence. It's an existing PVC fence that our neighbors have up, and we're hoping to match that.
I see. Well, it's really good you're communicating with your neighbors. I think that's always a good thing.
Thank you.
Well, good fences make, yeah.
Good neighbors, huh? So you still remember that poem, huh?
An oldie, but.
Okay, any questions or comments?
Yes, I'm okay with it not being consistent on Greenbrier, just because it's sort of an isolated corner anyway. There's a little walkway there, so it's sort of set off in its own little portion of that corner.
And the material he's using is gonna wear well.
Yep.
But that is a good point, Michael, because, you know, it does make neighborhood look lot nicer. And also, other thing we have to think about, this is the third variance we are giving. If there's a, you know, we could take care of the whole neighborhood, or is there even any more left along the Greenbrier now? So would that take care
There's
of it
one
all?
house, there's one house that does not have, has not requested this.
So just one left,
One along Greenbrier, right?
okay.
I don't remember which one.
Okay, any other questions? Yes, Wayne, you have some questions? You want to share whatever you have? Oh,
No,
Okay.
no problem.
okay, all right. Any other questions or comments? The motion was made by Kurt and seconded by Jennifer. And the motion is to provide a specific implementation plan modification for the fence at 4439 Misty Valley Drive. So all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion passes. We are past 7:05. So I'm going to open the public hearing for the planned development district general implementation plan amendment to add hotel as a conditional use for Lot 1 of the Airport Road Business Park, 3055 Deming Way. And I hear that there are a couple of people who want to speak, right?
I think they just wanted to register and are available if there are questions.
Okay. Okay, well, anybody who wants to speak, This is the time to speak, folks. This is your chance. Anybody who wants to speak for this, making amendments so that there will be another hotel there. Anybody who wants to speak. So that's it. So if nobody else wants to speak, I'm going to close the public hearing. And we're going to go to item number 3. Next item, sir. All right. Item number 3, the specific implementation plan modification for alteration to parking and landscaping plan. Echo and Cave, 601 Aspen Commons.
I don't know if the applicant is here. I wrote the staff comments. Basically, this is really minor, small-scale changes to the existing site, including relocating 4 accessible parking stalls, which will result in a net reduction in 10 standard parking spaces. Expanding the landscaped area on the east side of the building and adding a patio on the south side.
So this is the area between the foundry or those apartments
This is
and.
the former Cheeseburger in
Cheeseburger in
Paradise.
Paradise.
Fud
Oh,
Burgers.
okay.
Yep.
Cheeseburger and, okay.
Kurt's favorite restaurant.
Okay.
So
No, but-
this is the addition here at the bottom, the south, is the patio expansion. And then to the east, they're adding some grass area in front of the building and then moving the parking, the accessible parking to the southeast.
So would that be any more hard, it's not being too far away, the handicap parking?
No, that's a legal installation. It is a little bit farther away than the current parking, but it's
Within the legal limit?
not, yeah, it's not, it's acceptable. Yeah. Within, yeah, it meets ADA.
Do you know why they're doing this?
I presume they wanted more landscaping around their building. I didn't receive a statement.
And I
other
think
than-
that patio is a nice addition.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, I mean,
I'll move approval as proposed.
I'll second that.
So, motion by Wayne and
yeah,
second by
the
Dan.
patio looks nice.
That's nice.
It's just a little weird to have a handicap accessible stall that then you have to cross over a potential drive path.
Yeah, that's the main concern which I have.
But if it's ADA compliant with the barrier and the curbing,
So did you ask them that?
there's a lot of installations like these around in commercial areas. My understanding of ADA is that you need to provide, make accessible the parking spaces that are closest to the entrance, which these will be.
and an unbarriered path to the door, right?
That sounds right too, and I would argue this is.
Okay.
Are they intending, I don't know how they're gonna have this striped, that people would, because it's a covered entry, if it's raining, is there kind of a pull-up lane there you could drop people off? Is that what they're intending?
I don't believe there's anything in the drawing that indicates that.
Okay.
There's not a covered area in front of the building, there's no, so the answer is no.
Any questions or comments? Wow. So you remember the motion was made by Wayne and seconded by Dan.
Yep.
So all those in favor of this and motion to make the alteration to the parking and landscaping plan for Anko and Agay for 1601 Aspen Commons, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Well, all right, so motion
know when they
passed
might open?
unanimously.
I do not.
Okay, item number 4. Now, this is a big one.
So our staff recommend, can I?
So
keep going?
public hearing on and consideration of general implementation plan amendment to add hotel as a conditional use for lot number 1 of the Airport Road Business Park 3055 Deming Way.
So you just held the hearing, and there was an outpouring of comment. So our recommendation is that the commission should determine whether to recommend that the council approve the zoning amendment. Planning staff believe a hotel could be an acceptable use in the business park, but we have concerns with how the hotel is situated on this particular site as depicted in the conceptual site plan submitted for you is the use. It's not the concept, not the site plan. But I felt it was appropriate to bring up the site plan concern just because, you know, is the hotel of a size that's gonna work on the site.
So could you explain what you mean by that?
Well,
Yeah.
I'd recommend that we move it, recommend that the common council take it.
He was just gonna read the language.
Okay. Yeah, right, whatever. It doesn't,
And what I'm gonna do is, what we're gonna do in the future is give you the comments at your place. I meant to do that for the meeting and I forgot, so we'll not have this awkwardness in the future.
Or split screen with the,
Well,
yeah.
anyways, I move approval of
The concept,
the concept,
yes,
not the hotel.
yes.
You
Placement
mean
on the lot
move
and all
approval
that
of the zoning?
Approval of the
stuff.
GIP amendment.
GIP amendment, right.
And just to be clear, the GIP amendment is a text amendment. Mark,
right,
it allowing a hotel as a conditional use
on this side,
On lot
on this one, lot one.
on this specific site.
And so I'm a little confused by why we do it that way. If we intend to allow it as a use on lot one, why not just amend the GIP for allowable uses for a hotel on lot one? Why make it a separate step of a conditional use? And what are the conditions that are gonna be in the ordinance that would help us decide whether to approve or not the conditional use?
See the logic in that approach?
I mean, because by making it, it's, as a GIP amendment, it's already a zoning ordinance amendment, so it's a class 2 notice and a public hearing.
I think the big difference would be that the conditional use kicks in the requirement for the TIA. And I don't know if we were just amending the GIP to make it an allowable use, if that would be considered, if that would rise to the level of requiring a TIA.
Oh, okay.
Although we could have, I think we both inherited this project. So I don't know how the guidance was given at the beginning, other than obviously the direction that we are here today is how this was set in motion. I think what one could do is what you just outlined, Kurt, and then have that be a condition, a requirement as a condition of approval of the rezoning.
Yeah, that's true.
We could have done it that way, I think.
This process is the same process that was used when the behavioral
Yeah.
health facility was
Oh, I see.
approved. It was the adding it as a conditional use, then taking
In
the
one lot.
additional
Okay.
step.
But was it for that specific site, though?
Yeah, it was just for those two sites.
Okay.
But in,
So we're being consistent.
Yeah, I mean, it seems fine, but it seems like adding an extra
An extra layer.
hurdle.
but in that case, we did require TIA, did we not?
Yes, because it was a conditional use. And we are requiring a TIA, and I think it's already been started for this project
So
too.
we are requiring for this one as well.
Yes.
So,
So we can't set a date for a public hearing on the conditional use, because council has not yet approved the zoning ordinance to make it a conditional use. Or can we, I mean, that just adds 2 weeks.
In my view, we could set the,
We could set the CUP hearing?
yeah.
Okay,
I didn't specifically list that as an agenda item, but I don't,
well, then we can't do it.
well, that's another thing, is we could be setting these things administratively. To provide better public notice, we've done it this way. If you wanted to, it's up to you. I wouldn't worry about it too much, because the hearing itself is going to give people notice.
Right.
So
I would defer to city council members what they want in terms of notice and hearings.
Rather, we not do administratively, I'd rather we have the
yeah, oh,
process that we've had.
absolutely not, I
The
think.
benefit of that is then you guys have familiarity with the project so that when somebody asks you a question, you know how to respond.
Yep, I agree.
Okay, we had the motion made by Lee, but we did not have any second yet.
I'll second it.
Okay, second by Kurt, motion by Lee. So any more comments now? Yes, Wayne?
I have a question for Mark. You had indicated some staff concerns about the configuration. without getting into the details of the configuration, is that more related to how the building is proposed to be situated on the site, or the size of the development, or?
To be determined. I think we need more information, but it needs to be done properly in order to, I feel, fit into the, site circulation and with how the street edge
Yeah.
functions.
Right.
We're not at that step right now.
Yep.
The use itself, I personally don't have a concern with the hotel in this site. With the, in the business park, there's obviously hotels to the south, 2 hotels.
And do we know if there are any discussions underway, perhaps with merging with the site next, with the property next door?
So what is the size, do we know the size?
What's the size of the parcel?
If my memory serves me, I think it's around an acre. Just under 2, okay.
Just under 2 acres, okay.
It's under 2
So
acres.
Ginny, could you maybe come and, so how big the hotel would be? So do you have any idea?
Jean Whitish, LB Land Investments, we're the landowner of that remaining parcel in the park. I don't have the exact details of the number of rooms, et cetera, and the size of the hotel. All I have is what we know is under contract. It's just under 2 acres. And this was the first step in the process, because until we get through this step, we can't really take any further steps. So that's why I said I was just here to speak in support of the use, but
Okay.
not into the finite details of the hotel site itself.
Any,
The use seems appropriate, but still shoehorning how many rooms did they suggest? Like 3 stories or something?
I can't answer that. I don't know.
So we are not asked to approve the concept plan, just the zoning amendment?
Just the zoning amendment, because the original GIP
Right.
did not have specifically hotels listed as a conditional use. And I can't tell you why. That was 25 years ago, and
I'm betting it
we
was
didn't
because-
foresee it, I guess. I don't know.
I'm betting because they thought they wanted to preserve an area just for businesses
It could be.
and not have the intrusion of more.
I don't think we saw the number of headquarters to be in the park that are here
Oh,
now.
yeah.
And the hotel is a really good supportive use. So I think part of it is just the vision at the time versus what has turned out to be.
any questions for Ginny?
She, if I may ask a question, she kind of addressed it just now, but one question I had when you addressed this with Eileen initially is why wasn't this made a conditional
This
use
is
for the whole
1.67.
park? But I think
1.67.
Kurt is kind of alluding to the.
I think it's been more a history of how the city has chosen to deal with some of these unusual uses that have presented that nobody really anticipated on the front end. And so rather than making it wide open for the whole park, that it was easier to look at it, okay, site by site, because we know who it is, what they want to do, and it felt safer, I think.
More protection.
I think so. But it is an extra step. I agree with that. I would have no problem if you wanted to amend the whole GDP, but, so.
Mike, you have any question, any thoughts? Anybody? Go- Okay, well, the motion was made by Leaf, second by Kurt, so all those in favor of the motion to add a hotel as a conditional use for lot number 1 of the Airport Road Business Park 3055 Diamond Bay, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion passes unanimously. Okay, have a great evening, so. Okay, we are on to item number 5. This is the specific implementation plan modification for sign design review. Gary Brink and Associate, 224548 Deming Way.
This is the former Blue Chalk Club building,
Oh,
east of Costco.
yep,
Which is landlocked essentially. It has an access from the east. It's also visible, from the east, I mean from the hotel to the east. I don't remember, I think that's the courtyard. It's also highly visible from the Costco parking lot across the creek. The applicant's requesting permission to display 2 non-illuminated facade signs in locations that were not identified in the comprehensive sign plan approved in 2013, and that's why this is before you tonight as an SIP modification, and we are recommending approval as a minor modification.
So, in one case, there's a different size of the letters and different area. So you got on toward Deming where I can see that it's 51 square feet and the letters are 30 feet and 2 inches, 3 foot. So do you know why and how?
Well, it's based on, letter height oftentimes is influenced by the distance from which it's meant to be seen. So a road, and also there's 4 sides of this building, and you can never see all 4 sides at one time. So the fact that there isn't consistency, exact consistency, in this case doesn't concern me because you'll never see both signs at the same time. The one facing to the east is, I think, a greater distance away from Deming than the one facing west is from Costco. I think that's the short answer.
If you scroll up, the height is gonna be governed by proportionality to that
Right.
banding. If David Reed were here, he'd have something to say about that, but
I would move approval as a minor modification.
I'll second.
Okay. Any questions or comments?
Ramsey, further?
Any questions or comments? All right, so all those in favor of the motion made by, well, I guess you already wrote it down, so say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion passes unanimously, so. Item number 6. Specific implementation plan modification for bike shelter, PPD 8551 Research Way.
move approval as a minor SIP modification.
Second.
Any questions or comments?
Wilson and Ramsey.
I have a question, Mark. Is there a standard recommended design for bike shelters? And in this case, I'm wondering if there would be advantage to some sort of a panel on the side that would allow for visibility. I'm just questioning whether, I guess, both for appearance and security, there is a raise whether there should be some visibility into the interior.
To answer your first question, no, there's not we do not have a defined standard. Whether there's I'm sure there's best practices available, but I didn't consult those. The panel, I'm not sure I understand your question exactly. Oh, because it's dark.
Yeah.
Because it's enclosed on all sides.
Yep, yep. That's it.
The applicant, is there anybody here from PPD? No.
Would there be light at night? Or,
I don't believe so, no. I can't answer why, I can't speak to why they chose what they did. It's just meant to be a utilitarian
Yeah.
feature to protect bicycles.
Glad to see them provide a shelter. It just seemed to me that something like a plexiglass panel or something like that on the side would be advantageous.
and I think that, some people work late at night, and if, I think there should be some light or some, it will be pretty dark at night.
Well, if people are bike commuting at night, they will have their headlights, but the point is accessibility and safety around the site, which is, of course, the basic concern here.
So would there be light in the vicinity there?
I don't know from the air photo, there seems to be a light pole
Mhm.
actually pretty close to the site. I see a pole that's, you can sort of see. But I did not check for that.
Yeah, my biggest concern is safety. I think that's,
Condition your approval for some kind of lighting.
any other, Kurt?
It seemed to me the company would want to do anything possible for safety, because
Certainly would
if you
assume.
provide I wonder, from their perspective about liability, if you provide a shelter, that's any implied, I don't know.
Well, That's a great
In that
point.
sense, if we at least recommended,
Yeah, recommend.
that kind of puts the liability back on them. It highlights it as an issue, really.
Is that something?
Can we just do that administratively, have staff communicate our design, or let the minutes reflect our desire to have, how would you put it, adequate light and visibility,
Yes.
transparency?
Or to add to the motion to recommend the use of adequate lighting?
It's probably okay
That
to
was my
add to the
question. You
motion. Why,
Add that to your motion.
do you see any problem with that?
No.
Okay,
Yeah, so I'll amend the motion that way.
okay. Okay, so the motion is for the SIP modification for bike shelter at PPD 8551 Research Way. All those,
With a recommendation.
One more question, how many bike spots are in there, and how many are elsewhere on the campus?
It's my understanding, well, there's no other shelters. I didn't ask specifically about bike parking, bike racks. And I can't answer your question in terms of the capacity of the shelter. I don't know.
it looks pretty small, doesn't it?
How big, did it say it was 9 feet?
It looks like about 10, just eyeballing it, if this is representative of.
I think I had the description in the overview, if you go up a little bit. Oh, I did not, I'm sorry.
9 feet wide.
9 feet
Oh, there
wide,
it is, yeah.
yeah.
At a business area this large, what is the sort of typical bicycle parking that we see usually?
We haven't defined it in our ordinance. That's on the to-do list. I think one, that I'm trying to remember what we used for apartments. I think we had one for every 10 spaces, was it?
Yep. But we've used.
So that would be the standard that we would generally apply. I believe that's what Madison uses in many applications. But I did not investigate that here.
It does say this will be their first bike shelter serving PPD campus.
Do you think they have adequate bike facilities, Mark?
I did not go out to the site, I'm sorry. I did not get a chance to
I
do.
mean, I know that one of the issues that they're consistently asking the city for help on is parking, so we'd want to look into that in the future.
They are the ones who are proactively taking this on. This wasn't in response to the city, so I imagine that they are responding to a need or requests that they are receiving and that they are trying to meet that adequately. That was the approach I had in reviewing it.
Yeah.
I could have, and ideally, we would have an inventory of bicycle parking in the city, but we don't.
Yeah, and I don't think we have an inventory of bike parking at PPD, but we did survey their employees about how they get to work, what types of things might make them choose alternate modes. So we have that data and we can provide. It's a couple years old now, but.
I guess I was wondering where if there is bike parking that is not covered, where is it in the area, and why this spot was chosen in particular? It's sort of,
They originally had hoped to have it south of the arrow, the red arrow. If you, there's a little, see that zigzag? Yeah, that zigzag. They wanted to have it north of that, but that straddles the lot line. And so that is why that actually was, I liked that location better. But then when I talked with them and reviewed the email, the communications, they, because of that issue, chose this location to be closer to the street for greater visibility and access. It's also designed to serve the entire campus. It's not just meant to be that building.
Okay, other questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor of the motion for the SIP modification for bike shelter at PPD, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion passes. Item number 7. This is the concept review. Annexation of 2 lots from the town of Milton. Diamond, and this is 711 Twin Sunset Road.
Right. So this is Abby will go to the map. Actually, I don't remember if I put a map. Well, they provided a map. I don't think I did a staff report on this.
It did like a CSM, but
There
not
it
a,
is. There it is, yep.
not a context map.
Yeah, I couldn't get to it all last week. I'm
No,
sorry.
that's fine.
So they are, through their attorney, who I'm guessing is not here, have advised us that they would like to annex these two adjoining parcels from the subdivision into the city. The applicants are on the parcel that abuts Lot 4, which is not labeled there, I guess.
Go up to the CSM, I think. I think it's labeled on the CSM.
Yeah, that's probably why now it's down. It's another reason why I like the cover memo, the cover page, is it helps separate the agenda items. So well, you see where the house is, that's Lot 4, and then to the right, which in this case is the west, south is up, that's a vacant parcel, and that would be the other lot that would be annexed. And they are simply here, this is on your agenda for concept review, see if you have any concerns prior to them filing the annexation request, the application.
It's in the Upward neighborhood.
So, can we zoom in on the DCI map?
Do you have the address handy?
7111.
Just if you just scroll up, just go up Pleasant View Road and we'll travel that way.
Okay.
Now you can zoom in into the northwest corner, yeah, right there.
We seem to be focusing on this area of the town a lot.
Sorry.
You're there.
Close to the
So-
ice arena.
So can you,
So the house, yeah.
so
it's
that
not
house is currently in the
This one's
city?
in the city now.
That's not the one we don't want that one.
Right. Well, it's already
That lot
in.
is in the city.
That lot is in the city,
That was already annexed,
Yeah.
that's the
Okay.
Grove parcel.
and the next two
Those
are the ones
two
that want to
parcels.
annex into the
Yep.
city. And directly south on those
The city.
houses, those are in the city.
Right. And coming around the corner too.
This area and this one.
Also the house with the sort of reddish,
Yeah, yeah.
that's in the city as well, Leaf?
And so how big are these parcels that want to come in?
A little under an acre, I think. Yeah, half an acre.
0.42 acres. I think they look like they're the same.
0.41, yeah.
For one.
Mark, if we did that, do we also then, would the road be annexed directly across to the other portion of the city of Middleton?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
When I looked at how we handled the Grove parcel, when Eileen handled that one last, there was a statement about the road. Because this is just before you for concept review, I was assuming that our public works staff, as they review this, will flag that. I was starting to write comments about that, and I thought, well, we'll let them provide that language. But yeah, that's, the intent would be to make sure we're consistent with how we handled it with the Grove parcel to the east.
What is that road called? Is that,
It's Evergreen.
Evergreen.
but the
Sunset.
cul-de-sac is Sunset.
Twin
Is that a public road?
Yes,
So it's not a, okay.
but I think, Jen, your question was about Evergreen Road.
Correct, yep. Between portion that is part of the city to the
Both north and
south,
south are in the
Right.
city, so
Yeah.
should the road be as well?
correct.
I think we
Good
could,
question.
What, is the road currently in the town?
Yep, yep.
Abby, if you could turn on the annexation layer, or the municipal, in the upper right, I think it is. There
Yeah.
should be an administrative layer.
Yeah. I use this website all the time, so.
I'm not logged on right now. I wonder if you need to be.
No, if you
Nope.
keep going, it should be there.
There it is.
The municipalities will do
Municipality.
it.
Yeah.
So it looks like we didn't do that on the south side. So the entire road is in the town of Middleton, west of that first parcel that we annexed.
So what is the advantage of annexing the road versus not?
I would defer to our public works staff unless Jen wants to comment since she brought it up, but it is something that we will bring back to you at the next meeting. Or
Okay.
when this comes up again, we will address that issue. Typically, when you annex to the center line of the road. That's just standard practice, but there's a lot of examples where a road is not divided down the middle. In this case, because the property's across the street, actually, I would say the entire road will be annexed. where it says Town of Middleton, below the T in Middleton, from there to the east will be, that should all be in the city of Middleton then, because of the boundary to the south.
Is that road already improved to city standards, or is it,
The sidewalk was put in, I don't know if there's a curb. It looks like there's probably not a curb.
there's no curb?
Sidewalk is
At least
only
on
on
the
one
north
side.
side.
Yeah.
South side, I think there is a curb.
Is there a curb?
On the
there is a
south
curb,
side,
it looks
but
like.
not on the north side.
And as part of the concept review of annexation, do we need to recommend what these parcels would be zoned? Because presumably they'd be R1.
That will come in with the annexation. We will establish the zoning through the annexation ordinance.
Is there, I mean, normally, we wouldn't annex parcels of these large lot sizes, but since they're already subdivided, seems fine. What's the advantage to the city other than that we,
You actually raised a very interesting point. Because the lot is 40, I'm sorry, what was it?
0.4 acres, 0.4.
It actually, the one on the west could be divided in two. Hadn't even thought about that.
Under our R1?
Under R1, and you could have front access off of Evergreen and one off of Twin Sunset. In theory, you could do that. But we're not, well, it's close to the same size. Yeah, because it meets the width and the dimensional requirements.
But access is off of Sunset, not,
In that case, yeah. But the parcel to the west could be, in theory, we'd have to approve the CSM once it's in the city.
One north, one south.
You mean this one, Mark?
Yeah, that's the one that's being annexed, along with the house.
do we know what the town thinks of this?
We have not, I have not spoken with them. We are meeting with the town in a couple of weeks to discuss items of mutual interest, so I'm sure we can ask them at that time. This is before you tonight, just for the concept of the annexation.
Where are the current limits of water service?
That's a good question. It's in the Black Earth Creek watershed. Everything to the south, well, the Grove parcel, which Abby has measured there, we required that to have a sewer and water connection.
Has it been provided yet?
I don't know. But that will be a requirement of both of these lots, is to have sewer and water.
But the town parcels are well and septic.
Right.
And that's kind of our fundamental policy. If it's in the city, it's water and sewer.
And they are prepared to do that. They're aware of that.
And as you said, would they have to petition for a USA amendment with CARPC?
I don't know if this is in the urban service area or not. That's, actually, you know what, they will.
They will.
They
It's
will.
in the,
Yeah.
it's in the notes.
I remember that now.
Yeah. Sorry, I can't turn on the utility later because you have to be logged in for that. I don't remember my
Well, and
password.
that's on our GIS anyway.
And with that, is there a time requirement for the water and sewer to be extended?
I didn't get into that level of analysis for this application, so we will provide all that to you.
And it wouldn't matter so much for the undeveloped one, but you have an existing house.
Right. Sorry, I don't, we would obviously want to handle it the way we handled it last time with the Grove parcel, which is the one on the east. And we'll just use that as a template to make sure that we won't miss any of these details, and whatever the conditions of approval were there, I assume our attorneys would advise us of the same here. That was only a few years ago that we did that.
'Cause that's all.
2013.
Yeah.
I assume that is.
Okay, other questions?
So what's the motion you're asking us to do, is recommend concept approval to council, or,
No,
because they've not filed an
no,
annexation
it could just
petition?
be here. I don't see that needing to go to the council unless you feel there's policy issues.
Well, council would have to approve the annexation,
Right, ultimately, yeah.
ultimately, yeah.
Okay, so,
I would move concept approval of annexation of these two parcels.
Second.
okay, the motion by Kurt, second by Lee.
Do we want to put any subject to on there? It's just concept approval,
What
but
we had said in the staff comments, recommending supporting the concept and recommending the council grant concept approval with the understanding that the applicants will need to extend sewer and water laterals at their expense following approval by the Public Works Committee, and the lots will need to be added to the central urban service area.
So then you would want to make a motion that it should go to the Public Works Committee then? Or not?
If his motion just was.
My motion is as phrased in the
Okay,
staff comments.
okay, all right. And the second is the same. So any questions or comments now? So the motion is to approve the concept review of the annexation of 2 lots from the town of Middleton, 7111 Twin Sunset Road. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion passes unanimously. We are on to
I think it's good that we're having discussions with the town on,
Yep,
when is it, July 15th?
I don't remember the date.
Because
but
there seems to be a lot of issues cropping up right at the interface, so it's.
Yep. Okay, item number 8. Wow, this is important one now here. So this is the Erdman Park adjacent to the northern edge of Pleasant View Golf Course. And this is a concept review. And Erdman Park is only a placeholder name for now.
And as Abby noted, our public lands manager has a very, very good excuse for not being here tonight. The applicant, there are representatives of the project here, and Mr. Mayor, if you are
Yes,
okay with them coming up and
absolutely.
going through the project, and we have some slides that go with the project as well. They have been before the Parks Board, I believe that was last week. So.
Yuri,
come up.
it's all Yuri and others.
And I meant to announce this at the beginning, I am going to have to leave in a few minutes. My daughter's coming home from Germany and is in Chicago at 10 o'clock. So Abby will take over.
I think she can handle it.
I know she can.
Yes, Yuri, go ahead.
So you probably have heard we've been several times presenting about this project. So it's
Maybe get close to the mic so that he can hear it pretty well.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good. Excellent.
so it's an then urban property. It will be at the top of the property, not far from the golf course clubhouse. So the 8-acre lot that then Urban is interested to donate to this project, as well as easement for the drive access to the property from Schwartz Road, and about 3 miles easement for a trail that will be going through his 160-acre parcel.
I think
So that's the only slide, is there?
There's. Do you want this?
Yeah, so we've been working with Strand, that's working, the engineer firm that working for the city, and we've been working with Middleton, one of the Middleton engineering firms, a Cornerstone. So they've been helping us with the overall site design, and we've been also working with Workshop Architects. So Scott Ackett is here with the Workshop Architects, and the Gensler, the office in Minneapolis. It's also big architect firm. So kind of to develop the concept for overall site plan. So we're actually kind of working together to have the best solution possible for site development, that how the trails fits, the mountain bike park, and all the other pieces. Yeah, so that's
Down?
map. Yeah, there's a more updated map than that, but it's close to what's been the latest. But there's more developed.
There we go.
Yeah, here we go.
Take a
Yeah.
look at her. She's a very nice lady.
So that map kind of shows how the building will fit in the property, access road, the parking, The stadium, which is really will be a big open field that can be used for any type of events, outdoor events. Also, the skill area for mountain bikes, the pump track, and trailhead for the mountain bikes. So that's how it all will fit together to accommodate daily use by public, and at the same time, athletic and non-athletic events that will come to use the facility.
What is a pump track?
It's kind of like a feature for the mountain bikes, mostly for the kids, that kids can make around the course without pretty much spinning the pedals. So very kind of simple, kind of fun. There's a good examples of ideas, yeah.
Okay.
Kind of playground for the kids on the mountain bikes. Scott, you want to add?
Yeah, so, you know, we're just getting in the process of designing this
Could
building.
you please identify yourself?
What's that? Oh, my name is Scott Acketts with Workshop Architects.
Thank you.
And so right now we're in the process of designing this building, looking at all the site constraints. You know, we have a ski stadium, we have this mountain bike terrain park and the pump track, plus the parking. So we're trying to navigate kind of the site requirements to try to fit this building in. Plus, we also have some change in topography that we have to work with. So what we're presenting today is just kind of the site plan scheme with the parking to get some comments, direction on is this the correct approach for this facility? Because we don't want to cover the entire site with parking. So we did include some precedent studies of similar facilities. One in particular is in Minneapolis, which is pretty much identical to this facility with a community center, ski trails, mountain bike trails, retail component to it. They have events like weddings and things like that in that facility to take a look at kind of their parking requirements and what they have for kind of adjacent overflow parking, so to speak, because there will be some events here. I don't know if you want to talk about some of the events, or is that going into a little bit too much detail, but so we just want a strategy here. Is this a good approach?
So the one in Minnesota, is that also a Olympic cross-country?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
Could you explain the difference between, you know, which trails are ski, which are cross-country biking, and where are they?
Yes, so the red line is the existing, section of it is existing mountain bike trail right now, kind of in between then urban property and a golf course. And the ski trails are kind of like a white line, you can see going through where it says stadium. It's just a 30-foot trail, flat. There's nothing really special to it. It can be used by mountain bikes as well. Can be used by walkers in the winter, by snowshoers. So it's just a trail similar to you'll see at the Pope's Farm, just 30 feet wide.
I see, okay, now I understand, thank you.
So it will be skiing in winter, and in summer, spring, and fall, bikes and walkers and everyone else.
Yeah, hiking, riding. Middleton High School is interested, cross-country team interested to use it for training and events as well. So, but Pope's Farm kind of gives you a good idea of what that grassy trail is. It's just 30 feet wide. That's the difference.
Are there any opportunities to connect the golf course property bike access to this site, or is that not part of this?
It is part of this plan. This will be all integrated together.
Because what would be really nice would be able to see where those bike routes come into the site to understand how it's really accessed by the biker, and then thinking of the site in terms of some of those components of cross-country skiing and biking relative to the surrounding area. Understanding the topography and where the parking is, that's probably a logical location, but it might be nice to sort of focus on the user and see if there's a way to design the park that way as people would bike there or maybe even ski there.
Yeah, and we're working with Corp. That's a mountain bike group that developed those trails. Actually, we'll have a meeting tomorrow with them, with the designer. So, and we're talking about just like what you mentioned, how to integrate the best way for user friendly, and actually the signage will look the same for cross-country ski trails and mountain bike trails. So again, it's easy wayfinding on the trail system, whether it's hiker or mountain biker or skier at the different time of the year, yeah. So that's definitely our goal.
The concept I'm thinking of is orient the front door to the skier and the biker. Like, instead of the road, have it be a bike trail that goes toward right to the front door.
Well, actually, we've been kind of playing around with that idea. Again, we're in the process of designing this. So those little X pattern that you kind of see, that's kind of the main entry into the facility and access to the trailhead for skiing. And we're thinking about, is there an opportunity to kind of bring that bike path through the building, potentially. And yeah, I apologize for not, putting that information on, but I believe the bike access from the east is coming underneath the power lines, and it'll basically turn the site, kind of follow, the original design was to follow the roadway. So now is there an opportunity to kind of bring that more into the site and kind of engage, the building and the rest of the facilities?
That's good.
So, and I apologize if you've already considered this or that I'm spending your money, but given that this is going to be focused on kind of outdoor recreation in a very nice-looking area, I'm wondering if you could consider for the parking lot permeable pavement or low-impact design, just to kind of capture a lot of the stormwater without just a detention basin, kind of something more context or green design. And then
Yeah.
if there's a way you could push this towards a LEED certification for the buildings, it would help kind of, I just think with the overall concept would be
Yeah,
really nice.
we're net zero actually was talked about.
Okay.
For this building. Yeah, the permeable pavement, that's awesome, I think. And we've had those conversations. We're just kind of working through those details, and it would be awesome if we could capture that in the stormwater management. Right now, we're told that we can't. That we can't use that in the calculation. So even having a gravel
Under our
surface.
stormwater ordinance or the state
I
permit?
think it might be the county is
Well,
what I remember.
This land is still in the town,
Still in the town.
yes. He's donating the land, but we haven't annexed yet, or I don't know whether it will be.
Yeah, so that's
Well,
music
if
to our
the
ears.
county is going to require just a large detention basin, you don't get credit for kind of BMP and green infrastructure. That seems odd,
Yeah, I felt the same way.
especially given the values expressed by our county.
But we are, trying to achieve something with some of the storm retention areas in the wintertime, have it be a skating
Skating pond.
rink, shape it where it becomes kind of an interesting skating pond, not just a sheet of ice for hockey. And then even trying to incorporate some of the mountain bike runoff for some of their slope style kind of things to use that space. So it's not like it's just a set aside area.
Okay.
We're trying to use it in our programming.
I think we have talked about this for a long time, and I'm really happy that it's moving forward. It's really nice. Any other questions?
Will there be vehicle access to the parking lot along the access road to the golf course?
I don't think so.
Yeah, because I think that access is now just bicycle lane.
Just bicycle, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, 10 foot, which can serve as an emergency access.
Right.
It could change in the future, but that's how it is now. Wayne, you had some question?
Is there an action that's required of us at this point?
Well, this is a concept review.
I think that the recommendation was for concept approval. It's actually not explicitly stated, but I do know that several other committees have conceptually approved it. And in this timeline here, Yuri, did you put this Erdman Park approval timeline together? Or did
No, that's Matt.
I think Matt
did
did that.
Okay. So, yeah, it mentions Plan Commission for conceptual approval, but the concern I had is it mentions zoning also, and then it talks about a GIP approval. And of course, we wouldn't be able to take any action on zoning a property that's not in the city. So I wasn't sure how, tight your timeline was, but the annexation process is going to take some time if that's the plan, to annex to the city.
But they could go through the project even
I
before
move,
the annexation.
Approval of concept with a recommendation to continue to pursue high sustainability features in the planning of the site and indicating our strong support for moving forward with the project.
Okay, need a second.
Second.
Any questions or comments now?
Yeah, I wasn't sure what Matt meant by zoning because
Well,
presumably there's gonna be a GIP for the whole site.
Because I know that there was a bunch of meetings that happened today regarding the smaller parking lot and the connection road, because I believe Matt wants to get that bid out this year to get that constructed for this property.
To the
I'm
connecting
curious
road
if
from
that's what
Schwartz to the parking lot.
Yep, yep.
And it's, right now, it's just a 15-stall parking lot just to ease the golf course.
Right.
For the mountain bikers.
Well, he'll have to figure out the annexation, because I don't think we can bid out a road project.
It's not in the city.
It's not in our city.
Right.
Maybe we can partnering with the county, but I don't know.
I don't know, I think the lady probably would be going over that, I suppose, tomorrow at the legal thing.
Yeah, we can talk about it
Yeah,
tomorrow.
And that would be a public access road, right? Right, public road.
Yeah, they don't call it a road, I think they call it what are they calling it, Abby? Because it's not a,
Drive?
Drive, access drive.
yeah, access drive.
Private road
It'll be-
with public access.
Yeah, because it's not, it doesn't have this standard specification of the.
I mean, eventually, it's not hard to predict, since Erdman owns all that land around there, that'll eventually need to be a public road.
Yep.
For
Yeah.
some, I don't know what his concept is there, but.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, well, this is the concept review and approval as motion made by Wayne and,
Is there a second on that?
Yeah, Mike?
Okay.
yes. So all those in favor of this motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion passes unanimously. There are a lot of, well, go forward. I think it's exciting, so,
Yeah, thank you for your feedback, too.
yes. I think this is really a great project. And your fundraising is going good, right, Yuri? All right. Okay, we are on to the last item, item number 9.
That's right.
Concept review and set a public hearing, general implementation plan amendment and extension of Tribeca Drive, Tribeca Village. All right, here we are.
So,
So-
before they get started, this is just for concept review tonight and to set a public hearing. But I did want to add a couple of things that we discussed at a staff level, before we have the applicant make their presentation. We uniformly support the extension of Tribeca Drive, as we've discussed with the applicant several times. But our staff is uniformly uncomfortable with the idea of adding additional housing in Tribeca at this time until other land uses come along. I know we've talked with Meg about this for years. We talked with T-Wall about it previously. And our concern is that we want to support mixed-use development. This development was actually the impetus for creating TIF 5.
Yep.
And we're generally trying to avoid large areas with a single type land use in any part of our city. In order to gain additional corporate sites, corporate office developments, of which there are very few left in the city of Middleton, we and our planning consultants felt that in particular it would be important to protect the gateways into the development. So as you enter on Tribeca Drive from Parmenter Street, to not set the tone for this area to be residential, because that could then impact their ability to attract corporate office users for the rest of the property. at the same time, I also am personally uncomfortable, at least with housing in proximity to the Beltline.
Yeah.
Because from a public health standpoint in particular, but also from an amenities access standpoint, you know, it's just not a great walkable location for housing, in my opinion. That said, we understand the market conditions that the developer is trying to respond to, and they have been great partners with the city. And we are going to meet with them tomorrow to continue the discussion.
Great. So,
Where's the nearest bus station? Is it south on Parmenter?
Bus stop?
Bus stop, yeah.
I know that there's
Close to
one
Mom.
near Mom that would
Okay.
be located there.
Okay.
I don't know if that's the closest, though.
That's probably. I mean, that's the other issue in terms of housing. You don't want to put too much housing away from a bus stop. So.
And I guess one more thing that I want to point out is that from the initial concept for Tribeca, there was one residential building, maybe two, that was meant to be a mixed-use building that was supposed to have ground floor retail. And at the time that the proposal to change it to strictly housing came forward, our staff opposed it, but the Plan Commission supported it. So the 3 buildings that are built now are strictly housing.
so now they're asking, in this case, to extend the road, and they want this a narrow road. You think if you are trying to attract the larger companies, would it make any difference, or you think you are okay with this?
Yeah, we support narrowing the road. We support removing the on-street parking because they're going away from retail. So I think for that reason, narrowing the road, at least from our staff's standpoint, we don't have any issue with that.
Okay. So that's the main thing which they're asking for, extension of that road here today. Okay, so should they make the presentation then, or?
Yes.
Identify yourself and let's hear from you.
My name's Brandy Zander, and I'm with Mid Commercial Real Estate. And Abby, that was a nice summary, because that's pretty much everything that I was going to say. We really think that this is a great location for a commercial office setting, and we think that in order to really kickstart development here, we really need to get Tribeca Road continued onto Parmenter. It's a lot more saleable, and the end user gets really a lot more excited when they see the infrastructure already there. So in response to working with staff on the road, we would be required to amend the GIP, and that's kind of where we're at with this. The proposed densities are things that we think are reasonable, but again, we're not married to that. We just want to get that conversation going so that we can do what we need to do in order to connect that road. And Matt can speak to it a little better with the details.
Sure. So I'm Matt Schreiner with Becker Associates, and we're working with Meg in the city to really our primary focus right now is to construct Tribeca Drive, the last phase of Tribeca Drive to Parmenter. So we're planning to bring a plan forward to the city to show exactly what we're proposing for approval. The intent is to build the road this year. So we've worked with staff on a potential schedule to get there. One thing we need to do in order to gain staff approval is complete a traffic study. So Sean Stowski is working with the city's traffic consultant right now on a TIA so that we can confirm that the 70-foot right-of-way we're proposing for Tribeca Drive is going to work, and that the intersection of Tribeca Drive with Parmenter is going to work. But one thing they need in order to move ahead with the traffic study is a range of densities that we're comfortable with. So what we've proposed in this concept GIP is a range of density for the remainder of Tribeca, which is Area 2 and Area 3.
Can you scroll down to that?
So we're looking
There we
at,
go.
so we're looking at a range of density in here. You'll see specifically on this page for Area 2, we're listing 0 to 95,000 square feet for either residential, office, or commercial.
Did you mean by that per building or just in that total land area?
In that total land area. So actually, in the very last page of the GIP, there's a table that kind of summarizes this maybe a little clear. It just gives a range For Area 2, it's 65,000 square feet to 95,000 square feet of either retail, office, or commercial, a combination of those. So the bold Area 2 square footage. So that is what we're planning to go in Area 2. And
It's
in,
a very wide range, 0 to 95.
yeah, I know. Well, and it was, and there's a reason for that. I know it may be confusing, but it was just because right now, currently at this moment, Morton's or MIG Commercial Real Estate doesn't plan to develop that property as we stand here today, and they don't have a potential buyer of the property today. So
For
they're
Area 2.
for Area 2 or Area 3. So they have people they're talking to, but they don't have anything that's solid, and so they want to construct a roadway to divide the property and to help it become more marketable, because now people who are interested in the property know how many square feet they're buying, they know the road's actually gonna go there. So that's the intent of all of this. And to get to that point, we are showing what we think could happen in those places, but we want flexibility because we just don't know. So we're willing to work with the city and the Plan Commission on that, but
So it sounds like you're just looking to set the envelope for the analysis for the traffic impact assessment, is that right?
correct. Well, but we are looking to amend the GIP so that this is in place to move forward. Largely, the amendment to the GIP is not deviating from what Tribeca had proposed, years ago. We're still looking at mixed use, and we're looking at, office, potentially some residential, potentially some commercial, but what we really want to do is kind of nail down this density so that the traffic study can be completed. And, it is a GIP, so it's a range. Before anything is developed there, a specific plan will come back in front of you, and you'll be able to comment on that exact density, parking and everything that will be involved in the detailed development of a site. This is kind of just setting the overall picture. So the density we have there in Area 2 and Area 3 combined, the range is about 350,000 square feet to 550,000 square feet. The proposal or the concept plan that the city's planner prepared and was shared with us is at about 400,000 square feet. So the range we're proposing is, strategically right kind of on either end of what the city's planner had recommended. So we're trying to really just match that. We think it's appropriate for the space. We think the parking ratios are appropriate for the space and the densities that are proposed by the city's planner, and what you see in front of you, we think is appropriate for the space.
When you say square feet, you mean gross leasable area or
It's
total
gross square footage.
Gross square footage.
Yep.
So
again,
procedurally, what does the current GIP say for Area 2 in terms of the uses?
I know that they had a range in that particular quadrant. I believe they had looked at it potentially being commercial space, but I know that they had several different uses in that particular corner for Area 2.
The reason I was confused reading the application is it'd be really nice, since you're asking for a GIP amendment, to know what the current GIP says. When was the GIP approved?
I think 2008.
Yeah, 08 or 09.
But an SIP was never filed on these properties.
No,
Have we- have
only on
we-
the ones that are developed.
Have we extended the GIP approval every year? Or did it expire?
Yeah, I don't remember.
Because under our ordinance, a GIP approval without a SIP expires after a year.
Soon to be 5 years.
Soon to be 5 years, yeah.
So that GIP may not be valid anymore.
And I think that I don't know if we have concerns with that, because the intent for this area is really largely unchanged from what was proposed in Tribeca, that being a mixed use. And that follows the city's comprehensive plan and future land use plan, so.
Right.
But that's a good point, and I guess, because of, changing economic conditions, that's why we're here today, and that's why Tribeca's not fully built right now. It's a decade since that plan was approved, and there's a reason why it didn't get approved. It didn't, come to
Move
fruition.
forward, so.
The biggest changes are, it doesn't look like you guys are gonna be pursuing a big box retail store, which to me is a plus.
Yeah.
And then also, that
you know, you're looking at adding additional residential where the former plan showed the residential being pretty well built out.
Sure, so again, and that was because we want to maintain flexibility with what could potentially happen out here. I think, you know, there's, we would not want to rule out having the ability to do some residential here, but I think we can continue the conversation with, you know, with this body or with city staff as to what would be an appropriate amount of residential out here, if any.
And by residential, you're talking multifamily.
Well, I guess we don't want to, again, limit what could come out here. I mean, it could be multifamily, it could be some other product.
How many existing units in Tribeca Village? 200.
There are like about 80 or 90 per building, and there are 3 buildings.
Can people who live in Tribeca Village, will they be able to use Tribeca Drive to go up to Palm Manor?
Yes.
Okay, so there's going to be connections and.
Yep, so what we're proposing to extend Tribeca Drive is 2 12-foot through lanes, 2 6-foot bike lanes on the outside of that, and then 10.5-foot terrace and a 5-foot sidewalk. So it's a 70-foot right-of-way total.
Essentially, what you want to do is you want to put the road through and you want as much leeway as possible because you're trying to market the property.
Correct, and when we have someone come forward that's interested in purchasing a piece of property, we then bring a plan back to you for your approval as part of an SIP.
So now it's just giving him feedback and then setting up a public hearing date.
So our intent is, we'll take your feedback tonight and then submit an official GIP amendment in the next week or so for
Okay.
your consideration at your meeting on July 24th.
'Cause
So-
this still feels pretty high concept level for a GIP. To rezone a parcel and basically say, it could be office, it could be residential, it could be commercial. Is that what the original GIP basically said? Or it had specific enumerated uses and
Oh, it has a lot of
densities.
details. It has a lot of details.
Yeah, so the original GIP for this property did have a lot of detail as to exactly what would happen in each specific space. But we did look at other GIPs that were completed elsewhere within the city. I believe it's Greenway, for example, and that is very similar to this. In fact, there's even less detail in that GIP.
Okay.
Okay, so you are asking for a public hearing date and the feedback, I guess you got,
Well,
you think you got enough of feedback or you would like some more?
Well, the feedback
Any
would be,
you want to provide would be appreciated.
well, from my perspective, feedback would be, we'd be nervous about adding more residential absent some way to extend, or we'd have to verify adequate bus service to cover the area. I share Abby's concern that, I mean, I know that there are some affordable housing providers who have talked to you and looked at this property. And I'd be a little worried about jamming that right up against the highway for public health reasons.
Well, it's kind of an island of its own. There's not any
Yeah.
services out there either, so.
Right. Just as a general rule, I think ground level retail is not gonna work out there. You just don't have enough traffic. So you would need, if there's any retail out there, it's gonna have to be something that people are willing to drive and get out there for. Because you're not gonna get a lot of foot traffic or through traffic.
Do you think that the Middleton, that Tresta would help a little bit? That will be 280 units there along with
Well,
it.
Tracer will be adding units, but I don't see
But they
people
also have
there.
Food market and,
Not enough.
It's not enough to generate too much retail. I mean, I know everybody wants ground level retail for mixed use, but it's kind of run its course.
Destination, retail.
Yeah. Yeah.
What you'd expect from foot traffic, I would imagine.
yes, Wayne, you got some thoughts?
I guess the only other additional thing is, I think going back to some comment Kurt made earlier, I would like to be able to see a clear analysis of this compared to the original GIP to see exactly what's being changed. So there should be, here's what's currently there, here's what's being proposed for change. So we have an idea of what the increments are. Yeah.
Sure.
I think work with staff to narrow the scope some. It's just way too general with the amounts of square footage for the different things. It's just way too general. I mean, it's like signing a blank check.
Would there be access to Area 3 off Springton Drive?
Potentially, yes. So the previous GIP did contemplate that, and it is public right-of-way, so it's possible we have access off
I
of
mean,
it.
this is a radical idea, but do we need Springton Drive with a cul-de-sac jumping right onto the bell line? Do the other parcels need that for access? I mean,
Oh, north of there?
yeah. I don't know. I mean, since in essence we're replatting the whole area, it gets creative about,
You're talking about vacating Springton.
yeah.
You don't need it.
I mean, I've often wondered why we have Springton. It feels like kind of a wasted cul-de-sac
I was assuming it was.
of nothingness, so,
I was thinking that too. Something more to maintain.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not on the Public Works Committee, they might have a purpose for it, but, because the parcel just north is in the town,
City, actually.
it's in the city, and that would,
But the access permit or directs.
yeah. I mean, the only other reason you'd keep it is if you had an access management plan on Parmenter Drive to avoid a certain number of driveways, but.
Okay,
Still feels like 70 feet of right-of-way feels still too wide.
they're too wide?
If it's gonna, but I haven't seen the TIA, so I haven't thought about how many trips are generated by, if it's 400,000 square feet of office, how many trips, how many, it'd be nice to see on the TIA. Because again, I think from the city's perspective, we don't need to keep building roads so wide to accommodate free flow of traffic. But you're going with no street parking,
Correct.
which if Mark were here, I would point out to him is, street parking is one of the best traffic control devices to make biking safe. I actually agree with George on that. So, having bike lanes with just free-flowing traffic always feels a little, but we'll see that at the design stage.
Jennifer?
I agree with others that I'm not quite sure the amounts we're talking about relative to what was agreed to before. And I'm also a little confused about, do we need to, would it be, I mean, the SIP has not been approved, so we couldn't actually go through that whole process again. So it might be good to understand the whole layout of lots 2 and 3.
And we can present something when we come back to you
Yeah.
in July regarding what was previously approved. I know it was over 1 million square feet of office space and commercial and retail on this piece of property. So it was extremely dense. There were public parking facilities that were anticipated to handle all the parking needed for over 1 million square foot of office space. So we are significantly less dense than that, and there's a reason for it. It's based on what the market is dictating.
And there's a request for TIF money of $18 million for that parking structure at the time.
But that was gonna be phased based on construction.
Yeah,
public.
yeah, yes, of course,
And there's no TIF agreement in place.
yep. Never got signed, right?
Never got signed.
Okay, so,
Hold on.
Correct.
yes, Kurt.
And just one more thing is, can we ask that you do coordinate your site plans with Mr. Wall, who
Oh, yeah, I
currently
forgot.
owns the Tribeca Village residences? Because although it's not required by the ordinance, it'd be good to have input from those residents and the owners about how the parcels connect. And
It
I
can-
realize there's a history.
It can't hurt, though. I mean, communication is always good.
Us.
We did receive, I'm glad Kurt mentioned that, because I meant to bring it up. We received an email from Terrence asking why he wasn't notified about this being on the agenda. We would notify, once the public hearing is set,
Right.
all the property owners in the area.
We don't notify anyone for just a concept review.
Well, we notify people just through our normal agendas and notify them.
Okay, so are we ready for, I guess they have had adequate feedback now. So are we ready to set the public hearing date for July 23rd at 7:15?
Wait, so do we need to do a separate approval for extension of Tribeca Drive? Or is that just handled by Public Works? Because the area between Area 2 and 3 where Tribeca Drive would be approved, is that part of an approved GIP plat? Has that area been platted if there's no SIP?
Don't think it's platted, but I think the reason that you need to take action on Tribeca Drive is because it was part of the overall VIP. So,
We may not have a valid GIP.
Yeah,
That's
the
true.
question is, yeah, I don't know that we have a
So what we could do,
GIP in
just
place.
if I could offer a suggestion, we could bring a GIP forward for the remainder of Area 2 and 3 for your consideration July 24th. We could also submit plans for the roadway and an SIP specific to the roadway that you could take action on at that time. I don't know if that would be a way to consider just extending Tribeca as part of an SIP solely as a standalone document.
I think we'd consider it, but do we have enough information here to set a public hearing for a GIP that we've not seen yet? Because it's a rezoning, so it's gonna need a Class 2 notice. It doesn't look like it.
I don't think so. Can't we though, move forward with an SIP for the extension of Tribeca Drive under the existing GIP?
I think we need to determine whether or not we have an
Is that,
existing
is
GIP.
that GIP even valid?
Okay.
Okay,
Can you
so,
clarify a comment that you made earlier? Why did you get the feedback from Public Works that you can't move forward on extending the roadway until you have the land uses firmed up? Why is a TIA required for extending the roadway?
Because my understanding in talking with Sean is that Public Works will need to approve the road extension and the plans for construction. And in order to do that, they want to make sure that the intersection of Tribeca Drive and Parmenter is designed
Appropriately
properly.
Designed based on
For the use.
traffic volume,
Okay.
yeah.
okay, so then there's no action on our part then, right?
I guess, Abby, is this something maybe you and Sean should talk about, how we could move forward
Yep.
with the roadway extension,
Yeah.
realizing there's a lot of
I know.
other issues we can't resolve at this time?
So if you wanna get the road done this year, when would you need final approval to, because you guys are paying for it, right?
Yeah, they are.
So you would need final approval by sometime in August, so you can,
We were hoping to start construction the middle of August. So the intent was to have July, we were hoping for July
design work.
consideration and approval of the GIP so that we could also have the plans approved by Public Works sometime the beginning of August. so that we could move to construction in August on the roadway.
Well, I'm meeting with Sean in the morning. I haven't met with him since I got back from my vacation, but we'll try to see what we can do to move the road ahead to meet your schedule, and then when we meet in the afternoon, hopefully I'll have an update for you.
Okay. Okay.
I think the most important thing for you guys is the road.
Correct.
Extension of the road.
That's correct.
And that's the key thing which they want to do here, so.
And you said that the TIA was already started?
Public Works approved the contract to
Okay.
start the TIA, and I think it's just the density that
Question,
that-
okay.
that Sean wants to make sure everyone's comfortable with the proposed density so that the study can be based on that square footage.
The land use drives the traffic,
Correct.
but we've not approved the land use.
The tricky part there is the TIA itself is, I mean, it's gonna take some time, so if we need the GIP amendment in order to get the TIA, to know the land uses, and then that process, you know, takes one or 2 months. It's very tight.
Sure, and I know Sean mentioned he thought it could be quicker because it's not a full TIA, it's just an ice study of just the intersection.
That's good.
So I'm going to float the idea that we set a public hearing for the GIP, subject to the city attorney approving that we've received a sufficiently detailed GIP that we could actually have a public hearing.
We've never run that by the city attorney.
Just because the issue is, as we've decided that we have to set the public hearing by something noticed on our agenda item to actually set a public hearing. So if we don't set one today, then the earliest we could do is take action in 2 weeks to set a public hearing, which triggers the Class 2 notice. If they're running out of time, I don't know if there is such a thing as a conditional public hearing notice, right? Because we're setting a hearing for a concept plan that we don't have any details on.
I think we would be open to that, again.
Yeah, I know you would. I'm not worried about
I mean, our primary focus is to build the road,
Yeah.
and so this is one piece of the puzzle. We don't want to rush this. I'm confident we could bring a more detailed GIP back to you for your meeting on the 24th. And if that were the case, and we could set a public hearing subject to the city attorney's approval, we'd be happy to do that.
So would be, when we send out the hearing notice,
Has to be-
advertise that we need to have the document in hand, because we will get questions right away, and we need to have all that information.
Sure. And I guess we had intended on this document really being a standalone GIP, and we're calling it an amendment because it was our understanding this was actually amending the GIP that was created in 2008, but if that is no longer valid, then this would be a standalone GIP and not an amendment to the previously approved.
Okay,
What was on our agenda for what date to set the public hearing?
it was July 23rd at 7:15 PM.
I'll try. I'll make a motion to set July 23rd?
Third.
Okay.
I might have misspoke.
Okay, July 23rd, 7:15 is a public hearing on a GIP amendment subject to whether or not we actually have one that meets the sufficiency standard for public notice as approved by our city attorney. Because a public notice has to be specific enough. Well, it would have to be, so it'd have to be a Class 2 notice, so if we're working backwards, have to be published in the Middleton Times Tribune 2 weeks in a row, and their deadline to get it published on a Thursday publication date for July
4, so that's this Friday.
would probably be this Friday.
I think I did that right, because, so this is the date, but this paper doesn't give sufficient notice, so we need 1, 2.
Well, 11th and 18th, yeah, 4th and 11th.
And then, so working backwards, the deadline to submit to the
Is
paper
Friday.
is Friday.
We need adequate time between the receiving the proposed GIP to make a determination as to whether it's adequate to go forward.
Well, that's the question is, do we want our commission to look at the GIP and determine it's adequate enough to do a public hearing? Or do we want to defer that decision to staff and planning staff and the lawyer to say it seems to be adequate enough to issue the public notice for a public hearing?
Well, if you want if you are determining this current GIP to not be adequate,
Right.
I don't see how we're gonna get a notice in the paper this Friday, have them have time to revise something, have us have time to review it and say yes or
Okay.
no, whether it's adequate.
I will withdraw my motion.
Okay, so how about if you guys bring it here on July 9th, right? With more details, is that when is the next meeting of the plan commission? 9th, right? Yeah, so you could bring
Yes.
it here on July 9th. Or is that too early?
We are prepared to update this and bring it to you as soon as we need to. So if the 9th is the next meeting, we'll bring it to you on the 9th.
Okay, work with the staff and,
And we'll let the record reflect that we would like a determination whether the 2008 GIP is still valid or not.
I'll get that tomorrow morning.
okay, so we
Which
don't
I-
need anything else now, right?
Even if it's not valid and enforced, we can still take it as informative as what we approved in the past.
Okay, well,
We want to see this area develop nicely. It's going to be one of the key nodes for the city.
and extending this road, I think this will make a huge difference there, so. I guess you have plenty of input now, right?
We do.
Okay,
Thank you for your time.
so main thing was to provide the input, so we are not setting the hearing date, need a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Okay, all those in favor, aye, so we are adjourned.